Welcome to our latest update on the ongoing war in Ukraine from the War Insider. The 346th day of the war has begun. Main thing in the morning of February 5th, the Leopard 2 from Portugal, Leopard 2 from Canada are already flying to Ukraine. Russia has introduced an indefinite yellow level of terrorist threat in 3 regions. The Russian Security Council's president, Dmitry Medvedev, again threatens a nuclear strike. However, first, the map of combat operations and the situation on the fronts. On the border with Belarus, no changes. Joint exercises of Russians and Belarusians continue. The probability of an attack from the north remains, but this is unlikely. On the Svatovo direction, the enemy is trying to advance in the Tuyur area. Russian forces from Crim and Naya continue to pressure the defense forces. The situation in the Bakhmut sector remains difficult. The enemy has thrown all its forces into breaking through the defense and surrounding Bakhmut, but without success, says Ukrainian Defense Minister Anomaly R. The Russians are trying to push out Ukrainian forces from Krasnohora, enter Pereskovaevka, and attack Bakhmut from 3 sides. The situation near the road to Konstantinovka is close to critical, but so far it is possible to contain the Russian horde, which does not leave attempts to cut the road. The Avdev sector saw another unsuccessful enemy attempt to attack Nevelsk. The Zaporizhzhia sector, no changes on the map. However, Russia continues to accumulate forces near Mariupol, from where it can go to Ugoldar. At the same time, the War Research Institute believes that Russia is unlikely to attack Zaporizhzhia and will not be able to conduct several offensive operations simultaneously. The Tavria sector, no changes on the map. Over the past day, the enemy has carried out 61 shellings from rocket artillery system, including the civilian infrastructure of Kherson. The Ukrainian aviation carried out 5 strikes on areas of concentration of personnel and military equipment of the occupiers over the past day, and 2 strikes on anti-aircraft missile systems. Over the past day, the rocket forces and artillery of the Ukrainian Defense Forces hit a control point, 3 areas of concentration of enemy forces, an anti-aircraft missile complex, and a fuel and lubricant storage facility. The destruction of the Arctic anti-aircraft missile system Torem-Twad was captured on video. It's beautiful and can be watched forever. All medical institutions in temporarily occupied Horlivka in the Donetsk region are overflowing with wounded occupiers. Russian occupiers are setting up children's gardens, schools, or simply storage facilities as field hospitals. In one of these hospitals in Svetlodarsk in the Donetsk region, where around 70 people are being treated, medical personnel from Yakutia have arrived. As of February 3rd, approximately 600 mobilized people who refused to participate in combat operations have been returned from the Luhansk region to the Russian Federation. 116 Ukrainian soldiers have returned home as a result of the exchange, including defenders of Mariupol, Kherson partisans, snipers from the Bakhmut direction, according to Ukrainian presidential advisor Andriy Yermak. In addition, the bodies of deceased foreign volunteers, Christopher Matthew Perry and Rudabias Matthew, were returned. Portugal will send Ukraine Leopard 2 tanks, according to the publication Diário Noticias, citing a statement from Prime Minister Antonio Costa. Leopard 2 tanks will be handed over to the Ukrainian armed forces, but the number will be announced later. The Cabinet Ministry of Ukraine has decided to introduce the Delta system in the defense forces. As the head of the Ministry of Digitalization of Ukraine, Mikhail Fedorov, reported, thanks to it, the defenders will be able to see the battlefield in online mode. Data from aerial reconnaissance, satellites, unmanned aerial vehicles, stationary cameras, radar, chats, etc. is being pulled into the platform. While the occupiers are drawing circles and check marks on paper maps with pencils, the Ukrainian armed forces possess the most modern technologies that will help our soldiers feel the advantage on the battlefield. Delta will become the eyes of Ukrainian warriors. A plane from Canada took off with the first Leopard 2 tank for Ukraine. Today, a plane from the Canadian Air Force took off from Halifax with the first main combat tank Leopard 2, which Canada is sending to Ukraine, wrote the head of the Canadian Ministry of Defense, Anna Tannand, on Twitter. She noted that Canada supports the Ukrainian people and will continue to supply the Ukrainian armed forces with the equipment necessary for victory. A massive fire in the Russian village of Borisovka near Belgorod continues for the second day. Yesterday we reported an explosion of tanks at a fuel plant of metal structures, where the pride of Putin, the Kerch Bridge connecting Russia with Crimea, was being made. According to local sources, the fire is not dying down and there are no estimated time frames for elimination. The sky is covered with thick black smoke. It is believed that 3 out of 9 tanks are on fire. This is the future war against the past. The Ukrainian Defense Minister Reznikov showed what the Russians tried to defend against HIMARS. It turned out that the occupiers tried to resist HIMARS strikes with corner reflectors. The entire area near the Kherson Bridge was covered with dozens of Russian reflectors. The enemy tried to use this anachronism to protect itself from HIMARS. The head of the Ministry of Defense wrote on Twitter, "This piece of technology somehow did not help the Russians to hold Kherson." In Russia, a permanent yellow level of terrorism threat has been introduced in 3 regions: Belgorod, Kursk, and Bryansk. There are 3 levels of terrorism threat in Russia: blue increased, yellow high, and red critical. The yellow level is introduced in a region if there is confirmed information that a terrorist attack may occur there. Also, Vladimir Putin has cancelled the term of the terrorism threat for 15 days by his decree. They wanted to capture Kiev in 3 days and got a permanent terrorism threat in 3 regions. Another State Duma deputy from Novosibirsk, Dmitry Savelyev, promised to go to the front and even got on the train, but secretly got off the train on the way and flew to Moscow. Maybe he knows something about where the front will soon lie. Gazprom has classified the statistics on gas production and export. This information used to be published every 2 weeks. Is everything so bad that they don't want to be ashamed? Russia has responded to the delivery of long-range GMLS missiles to Ukraine by the West. The Russian Federation Security Council chairman, Dmitry Medvedev, has again stated that if Ukraine strikes Crimea, Russia's response may be anything, hinting at a nuclear strike. He referred to this as retaliation strikes and noted that the response would be quick, harsh, and convincing. It's hard to say how many threats this is from Russia. However, none of them have stopped or will stop the Ukrainians. This is all the news for today. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. We'll be back with more updates and information tomorrow. Thanks for watching.